have a lot of screen time, but Clifton Powell as Cuddy.
His scene, he's technically in 2 scenes, and he's so fucking menacing.
Yep.
Because he's in Menace to Society. But yeah, man. That scene in the stairwell is one of my all-time just favorite scenes in the Hughes Brothers filmography. Just the way that he tries to play it off, like, hey, I'm just here taking care of, making sure that they have enough to eat or whatever, when he's clearly been doing a lot more than that with Juanita while Anthony was while he was away, and it's very heavily implied that they had a relationship and maybe he even pimped her. But there's that scene in the car when he rolls up after Anthony comes back, at least back into Juanita's life, after coming back from Vietnam, where he's talking and he's just not interested in Anthony at all. But, he's flashing the money and talking about their little girl, Sarah.
She keeps trying to introduce them.
Yeah.
And he just cuts her off. Oh, man.
But the scene later on in the stairwell when Anthony's coming home and Cuddy is coming out of the apartment and tries to play it off like, hey, no disrespect. And Anthony tells him, get the fuck out. And he's like, okay, cool. And he acts like he's going to walk away, and then he turns around and just smacks him like right across the chest and shoves him down the stairs.
Yeah.
And then just that shot of him walking down the stairs towards him, and he pulls out his .45 and racks the slide.
Suck it.
And then sticks it in his face, and it's talking about how Anthony's not a man because he can't provide for his woman. It's nuts. He's so good in those 2 scenes that he has.
Yeah.
And yeah, just Anthony being real defiant, just telling him, why don't you kill me because
he's trying to humiliate him and tell him to suck on the pistol, and Anthony refuses, and he's basically, you better kill me now.
Yeah.
Because I ain't doing that shit.
Calls him Santa Claus.
Yeah.
It's like, see you later, Santa
Don't
Claus.
Don't you ever bite the motherfucking hand that feeds you.
That's we'll talk about the soundtrack in a little bit, but that's still of him in the stairwell sticking the gun in Anthony's face is on the back of the first album. The soundtrack has 2 albums. It's on the back of the first album. Well, there's really no other pivotal roles per se in the film except N'Bushe Wright.
Yeah.
But even she doesn't really come into it until the last act. I mean, she's there because she's Juanita's sister. So you see her in the very beginning, where they're trying to play it up like she's the younger sister. I mean, she is the younger sister, but they're trying to play it up like an actress that isn't much older than age is.
They dress them like super youth.
Yeah.
On like pigtails and like little shit.
Yeah, so like Juanita's in high school, so you figure she's got to be
middle school? I don't know.
Nah, Juanita's graduating, so I figure they're trying to play N'Bushe Wright like she's maybe 13 or 14.
Okay.
In there, which I don't know exactly, but I mean, Anthony's gone for like 4 years. It's maybe 5 years, the span of the entire movie. So she's not that old by the time that she shows up in the last act. She's probably in her late teens, maybe 20 at best. But like I said, she's very good in it. She just doesn't really come into the story until the last act.
Yeah, that's true. She's also in the original Blade, right?
Yeah, she's who Blade teams up with. She's the doctor.
Doctor,
Yeah.
Also, he really's not in the movie very much. Like he has like a few minutes of screen time. Maybe that's being generous, but Clifton Collins Jr.
Oh yeah, he's
part
one
of the crew.
I think he only has 1 or 2 lines in the movie. Yeah, he's one of the soldiers in Vietnam.
I wanted to give him a shout out because
he's a good actor.
Yeah,
this is like an early role from him, and then I remember seeing him in the credits, and then thinking he doesn't have very many lines, and he only has maybe 2 lines in the entire film. He's good. Michael Imperioli, like in an earlier role.
Yo, what they do to him is so fucked up.
It is. It's awful. He disappears at one point in Vietnam, and then they find him, and he's been disemboweled. And I'm pretty sure that you only see it very, very briefly. I'm pretty sure they cut off his penis
and put it in his mouth.
Balls and put it in his mouth. Yeah. It's very, very brief. And then for the first time I saw it, I thought it was just part of his intestine. And then rewatching it later on, I was like, oh no, that's his penis and his testicles that they cut off and put in his mouth. Which is awful. What an awful way to die. And he's in no shape. And they try to save him, which they do, kind of.
Do you agree with Anthony helping him, like an assisted suicide?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And mainly because that was his call.
Yeah.
He said, hey, do me this favor, I need you to kill me. I can't go back like this. I mean, just the fact that he survived the disembowelment
and all of that.
All
pain,
that.
Yeah.
You know, he probably wasn't going to make it anyways. And if he did, he's right. Like, what kind of life could he have? That was his decision, saying, hey, do this. So, yeah, I'm totally down with Anthony helping him out since he had asked for it. That was up to him. Starts out with them in high school. And, you know, obviously this is Vietnam War is going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you weren't in school, you had a very real chance of being drafted because the draft was still on. So, both Skip and Anthony plan on going to school, or Anthony doesn't want to. Skip wants to. He's going to school so he can stay out of that, and Anthony kind of says, "Oh, I think I might join, you know, the Marines, or join up because I want to do something different." You know, and he talks about how his father was a Korean War vet. So when that comes up at the dinner table, that's the argument that he uses was, hey, you know, you said that going to war in Korea made a man out of you, and I want to do that. Probably not realizing how awful that experience was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And how he would be treated later on when he came home. Joe is someone who says that, you know, he's trying to avoid the draft, but he says that Skip curses him because Skip says that, you know, they're just looking for someone like Joe to draft, and eventually he does get drafted. And then Skip ends up dropping out of school. Or not dropping, I think he flunks out of Howard and ends up getting drafted. So there's that. There's the beginning of the first act of the movie is them in high school and them trying to figure out what they're going to do with their lives beyond that. And unfortunately, it leads all three of them into the service.
Oh, they have that party where Anthony meets up with Juanita, and she's like, "Oh, you should come over before you leave," or whatever. Like, you could do whatever you want,
mm-hmm.
right? And then so it's heavily implied that they lose their virginity to
mm-hmm.
each other, right? And then so then he leaves pretty soon after that, and then he finds out that she's pregnant.
By the way, that's a great transition that they do there, where he gets out of the house before the mom comes home,
and he's
running through everyone's yards, and everyone, you know, you can hear people yelling at him, and he does a great thing that I love. People are yelling at you for like doing something wrong, and you just yell back, "Fuck you!"
Hey, get the fuck out of my yard!
There's that great transition shot where it shows him running over the fence, like jumping over the fences and running through the yards. That transitions into them running through the bush in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, there's artillery going off around them, and they're running. But yeah, it's you obviously learn after that first battle scene in Vietnam that Juanita was pregnant as a result of their sleeping together on on graduation night, and he has a daughter. And Skip asks him, you know, why don't you have her picture or all that? And he says that I can't think about home and I can't think about, you know, my family. I can't look at that because I need to focus on just being out here and doing my job. That's how I stay alive.
Yeah, that's a great delivery. How he spins that. And then Skip is just like, whatever, man, I'm finna go get high.
Yeah, it's... I don't know if Skip signed up for them specifically, or that was Anthony telling him to, join Recon, because they're a Recon team. But it's obvious that Skip has no business being Recon, because he's kind of a fuck-up. He doesn't take things as seriously. And, they're doing a very dangerous job. And that comes back to haunt him later, because Skip freezes up when they're ambushed, and it gets the lieutenant killed. We forgot to talk about how when he first goes out with Kirby, before he goes to Vietnam, because that's another great scene. Oh, he's selling the tamales outside. Mm-hmm. That's what that is. I was wondering, what is he yelling? That's after the first confrontation with Cowboy in the pool hall. After Kirby chases them off, and then they're sitting around, and Kirby says, "Hey, how about doing a little run with me?" So he needs a driver, because Kirby's going around to collect. And they stop at, was it a barber shop, or I forget just what exactly they're in, but they stop there, and Anthony's just in the car kind of chilling, and then you hear there's a scream, and then someone gets tossed like right through the front window of this place, and it's Kirby like throwing the guy out because the guy owes him money and he's not paying. And Kirby comes out. The guy's wife or girlfriend shows up with a pistol and is sticking it in Kirby's face. And he just snatches it from her and then punches her like square in the face.
He says, "Oh, you got a lot more heart than your bitch-ass husband," or something like that.
Punches her square in the face. The guy grabs Kirby's leg, but ends up grabbing the
fake leg.
The fake leg, because he lost a leg in Korea.
He's like, "Everybody knows I don't have this leg, and you grabbed the wrong one, you stupid motherfucker."
He grabs the leg, and Kirby is just kind of
hobbling around,
hopping, and then he must fall to the ground because he kind of like rolls over. So he's like he's right next to the guy, and he sticks the gun in his face. It's such a fun move that he pulls.
Because you're not expecting that. He like basically is like cuddling him with the pistol on the sidewalk. He's like, "Listen, motherfucker, you better have my money. You understand?"
And then they take off. And Kirby remarks that Anthony's almost as good of a getaway driver as he was. But that's kind of Anthony's introduction to the more darker world.
Yeah, like it's a slow transition into manhood, because he starts off kind of as a boy. He's, kind of unexperienced, and then slowly they take you into, his issues with, or him exploring with Kirby, and then him going into the war, which is like this subtle transition into him becoming like a man. Yeah.
Even though it is fairly brief, it's not as long as I remembered it being, but even the Vietnam stuff is only maybe 20 minutes of the film. Maybe not even that. But that's where you get introduced to Bokeem Woodbine's character of Cleon, who, as we established, was a preacher's kid, but is very, very violent and almost psychotic.
He decapitates a body and pockets he puts the decapitated head in his backpack.
It's because he was jealous that they were going over the dead Viet Cong soldiers looking for intelligence or anything, and taking souvenirs, and the lieutenant finds like an officer's belt. And it's kind of clear that everyone else is like, "Oh man, you're so lucky that you found that." And Cleon almost is jealous. That's what he gets. So he decapitates a body and keeps the head and says that the head is the good luck charm. But even like when after he decapitates